All right, with that, let us bring in Fox News Sunday anchor Shannon Bream. And Shannon, from the law, you well know it's all about leverage. Same holds true here. So at this point, what does the Iranian regime stand to win in any negotiations, short of just being able to remain in power?
Yeah, well, I'm not even sure that they're even entertaining it. As you guys have been reporting, and we've been reporting overnight, that they're acting as if it's completely irrelevant, that they would even have a conversation. I think it is, as many of our guests have said, if you guys have said, that there is some idea that they need to try to save face, whether that will be with the strike or what will happen next. We wait to see. And of course, there are worries for our bases, for our men and women there in the area. But really here at the homeland, too, there's a lot of conversation about what is happening here within the U.S. Millions of people here who we don't know exactly who they are. So there's concern everywhere, and the concern being that Iran is going to want to flex its muscles in some way that creates pain for the U.S.
Yeah, you're so right. We had Mike Pompeo on earlier, and he admitted that, this open border that we had for 4 years, known terrorists coming across, a lot of gotaways, many of them Iranian. Griff was talking about many of the Iranians that he saw coming across. Encountered them coming across. So the possibility of sleeper cells. But also we have in Yemen the Houthis, who have now torn up their ceasefire agreement and could now continue piracy in the Red Sea and affecting our shipping. So what are you hearing from Washington about how they plan to keep Americans safe, since the premise of this strike was that this was to keep Americans safe?
Well, there's a lot of concern about a number of things. But remember, before the strikes, there were those, including one of our guests this morning on Fox News Sunday, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine, who said the president does not have the power to move forward here. He had that war powers resolution. He's going to be with us this morning to talk about where they go from here. Do they force a vote? Remember, they're still trying to get a lot of other business done here in Washington, like the big, beautiful bill that's supposed to get to President Trump's desk by July 4th. That probably now on tenuous footing, given the other things we've got to worry about. But, there's a lot of praise that seems to be partisan in nature, at least split along partisan lines. And most of Republicans saying we support this president. There are those outliers who say, no, we disagree, like a Thomas Massie. But you've also got folks like Fetterman, Senator Fetterman, crossing over from the Democratic side of the aisle to say, like, heck yeah, this was exactly what a president should do. So we're just going to have to see how it plays out here in Washington. But I'm very interested to see now what Senator Kaine plans to do in light of the attacks having gone through.
And, Shannon, that's such an important point. Just so our viewers know, Senator Fetterman tweeted shortly after we all learned of the strikes, as I've long maintained, this was the correct move by President Trump. Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terrorism and cannot have nuclear capabilities. It comes as the drumbeat didn't take long to come out for calls for impeachment with Democrats.
Yeah, you've got Congressman Sean Casten last night, at least from a personal account on X that seems to be linked to him. It's not verified, but he said this is now a conversation potentially about impeachment. Now, we know that, Democrats, when it comes to President Trump, have not met an impeachment they don't like. And so I will not be surprised if that gains some momentum. How serious it is, we'll have to see, because Democrats have to know they've got to play this carefully, too. Our Fox News polling showed that people overwhelmingly were worried about Iran getting a nuclear weapon. They very much see Iran as a threat to our national security. So there's going to be some support, probably across party lines for people based on what's happened over, the last 24 hours or so. Democrats have got to play that very carefully, because it seems like every time they try to impeach President Trump, it only helps him and increases his popularity.
And to that point, Shannon, he made this a centerpiece of his foreign policy on the campaign trail. He said, I'm going to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon. That's exactly what he did. So you have to think promises made, promises kept is going to help him somewhat when it comes to not only the midterms, but also whoever is running in his stead come 2028.
Yeah, I think the midterm question is a little tricky here, because we know there's been some split within the MAGA base, within MAGA world, about this proceeding the way that it has. You have seen a bit of a closing of the ranks over the last 24 hours of people saying, yes, this is a president who said Iran would never get a nuclear weapon. But he's also a president who said we would get out of entanglements, foreign entanglements, and we would not get into any new ones. So you've heard some pretty loud voices out there saying even some of the president's greatest, strongest supporters that they worry about this impact on his base. So all of those things, we'll have to see as they play out heading to the midterms.
I think you make a really good point, and I think the reality is that the unknown is really what's going to come into play here. If they strike, if the Iranians strike and don't come to the negotiating table and don't have peace and strike Americans, and this becomes larger, this becomes a political problem as well as a military problem if people start to lose support for this strike. So,
and
Shannon,
just a quick note. I was going to say, remember, even if you don't agree with this strike, you have to acknowledge that the IAEA, which is not a conservative organization, the UN watchdog on nuclear matters, they had this scathing report just weeks ago saying that Iran was out of compliance. They cite things back to 2019, the inability to get to sites, the fact that uranium traces were showing up at places that were undeclared, all kinds of things that's not coming from a conservative body. They very much were sounding the alarm on Iran as well.
That's very fair. And whether you like the strikes or not, everyone agrees that the precision and the force and all of it was very impressive and could have an impact on not just Iran, but on many other enemies of ours who are looking at that and seeing it. And we're awestruck by how amazing our military is. So there's no question about that. Of course, with war, there's a lot of unknowns. Tell us what you have next on Fox News Sunday.
So we do have Senator Kaine. He just a moment ago also was on on X. I want to call it Twitter, whatever we're calling it now. But saying essentially that there are a lot of unanswered questions here, and he wants a lot of answers. He said, "Have we learned nothing from the 2003?" episode in which America was lied to and rushed into war. So I'm going to ask him if he thinks this president has been lying. Is that what he's suggesting? We also have Senator James Lankford with us on a number of issues, this and more. And do they even get to that big, beautiful bill this week? We'll cover it all.
It's crazy that is now a question. We kind of thought, hey, July 4th, there's a good chance we could make it now. Questions remain. Shannon Bream, thank you. Watch Fox News Sunday this afternoon on the Fox News Channel. Now,
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.